only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for
mankind. That is what we're going to try to do.
What your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I have a dream.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Who's bringing the chips?
Guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
There is no constitutional issue here. The command of the Constitution is plain.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
Well, hello. How's it going? It is currently 8:59 p.m. on September 16th, 2024. I'm currently on I-90 eastbound and down from Seattle, headed back to little Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Had to go out of town for work today. Got to work at a train station right next to the Lenfield Stadium. It's pretty cool. The Seattle Seahawks Stadium, home of the Seahawks. Massive, absolutely massive stadium. It's pretty cool, actually. I'm not even like that big of a fan of football, but that was pretty sick. You can see like the bleachers inside the stadium from where I was. Which was like right next to, like right underneath it, basically. And the top bleachers reached as high as like the high-rise buildings next to it. It's a huge stadium. It's crazy how like massive it is. It's a very impressive building. I don't even really care about football all that much. But anyway, yeah, I'm driving right now. It's a little bit of a very different episode, but I got about 5 hours worth of driving. I'm about halfway through, so still have a few hours of interstate to go. So I figured, I've had enough of listening to Life is a Highway and Jimmy Buffett songs at this point. I might as well try to record a podcast episode real quick because, man, work got busy out of nowhere. Life has been very busy for both myself and Alex, and it might be a little while before we can get another episode out. So I just want to make this little filler episode to make up for it, but man, it's not a filler topic though, because dang, what on earth is going on? Breaking news, I don't know if you heard, which of you folks have been living under a rock, but somebody tried to kill Donald Trump again. That's 2 for 2 this guy has gone. 2 assassination attempts, mind you, in, what is it, like 8 weeks? 8 week span? Last one was in July, right? Butler, Pennsylvania. This one was, out of all places, Trump's International Golf Course in Florida. Wild stuff, dude. I would say wild times too, but I mean, he ain't the first guy or first U.S. president or presidential candidate to get shot at. Which, I mean, it has been a while. It's like what? Reagan was the last one, I think, if my history is correct. But I didn't want to just talk about this new attempt or the last one. I wanted to kind of do something no one else is doing, as far as I know, anyways. Because we all have our ideas of what's going on. You see this, and there's plenty of other people, plenty of other podcasts that go and analyze this, maybe just from a purely crime scene standpoint, so to speak, or others, like the great Tim Dillon, who go at it from a sort of I don't even know Tim Dillon, more like Alex Jones, who go at it from a conspiratorial, deep state analysis viewpoint, which I'm not entirely convinced or opposed to. You know, ever since Epstein's Island, I'll believe anything about the government and corporations and deep state and stuff. To me, it's true unless proven otherwise, honestly. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to look at this in a different way that, like I said, as far as I know, nobody else is doing. We're going to be the first here at World Canon, just really me by myself in a company that I work for, driving from Seattle back to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho at 9 p.m. at night because this is what I wanted to do. So, to analyze this, to kind of figure out what is going on, let's try to make some sense of this, you know? And to do that, we're not going to do what everybody else is doing. We're going to look at it from a historical viewpoint, okay? We're going to go back and look at previous presidential assassinations and assassination attempts to basically cross-reference data. We're gonna cross-analyze data from the past and compare it to the present, because that's what you do in situations like this, or when you're trying to learn something about a thing that happened that has also happened in the past. You refer to the past and you compare it to the present, and the present situation or event that is similar to that past event that you're referencing to. Anyways, we got a lot to unpack here, and that's great because I still have a while to drive. Now, do you want to take, real quickly, dear listeners, and by the way, there's so much background noise right now. I am booking it down the interstate right now, and this is kind of a noisy truck, so I hope I can go back to post and cut this out, or cut out all that background noise. Otherwise, this is probably going to be a very annoying episode to listen to, but you know what? It's content nonetheless, and we're going to get it out there. Oh yeah, actually, real quick before we get into this, lest I forget, we got a shout out from Phil's Lawn Care. None of you probably know who that is unless you came over from Phil's Lawn Care. A buddy of mine, go to church together. He has another podcast of his own. It's called the Think Green Podcast with Phil's Lawn Care. Obviously, if you couldn't guess, his name is Phil. And great guy, great podcast. I love it. It's technically a business podcast, I'd say. He talks all about lawn care. Obviously, he owns his own lawn care company and a very, very successful YouTube channel with amazing videos where he does like property makeovers. He takes people's overgrown properties and turns them into a work of art. Like it's really impressive what he does, and he always includes like the person's or the property owner's story as to like what happened to their property, how it got so bad, and just does a really good job with his videos. I mean, he's really great at what he does. Really entertaining videos and informative sometimes, and you know, he's a great technical expert when it comes to lawn care equipment, which I'm sort of a fan of. I used to do lawn care as a job with my dad growing up, and you know, we owned our own lawn care business, so you know, it's nice to see other people doing it. And I mean, he's doing it at a whole other level than what my dad and I did growing up. Like ours was just a little small operation. His is like crazy. But yeah, anyway, he also has that podcast, the Think Green Podcast. Great podcast. Like I said, typically business, talking about lawn care and how to grow your lawn care company through social media and sort of the financial business and technical equipment side of everything. But he doesn't just condone it down to that. Like he he'll talk about anything and everything, and he does a great job at making it entertaining. Like, I listen to his stuff on the way to Seattle, and I have a great time. It's fun to listen to him just talking about his collections of colognes, which I know that sounds kind of weird, but I learned a lot just from listening to this guy talk about colognes, and I enjoyed it. I never thought I would enjoy listening to anybody talk about colognes, but here I am saying that I enjoy listening to this guy talk about colognes and learning about colognes. But he also talks about GoPros, which I did not know there was that much that went into GoPro cameras, but there is. And lo and behold, he now does a little history segment at the beginning of his episodes where he talks about things that happened throughout history on the day that he's recording the episode, which I personally am a fan of. I think that's cool. And I mean, obviously, I'm a bias towards that, but I really like it. Anyway, like I said, he gave us a shout out. He gave World Canon, he gave me a shout out. He was very nice of him, completely unrequested. Just did it out of the blue. I never even asked him to do it. He did it anyways. That was very nice and thoughtful of you, Phil. Thank you, Phil. I know you're listening. I appreciate it very much. I'm going to send you back all 5 of our listeners. So, watch those numbers. They're going to spike, man. That little bar graph that you see on, I don't even know if you look at your Spotify analytics ever, but it's gonna jump way up, dude. But yeah, you guys could be so kind, unless of course you came from Phil's Lawn Care. Please go check him out. Tell him Chris sent you. Tell him World Canon sent you. It mean a lot. Yeah, anyway, where was I? Previous presidential assassinations and assassination attempts. We're going to cross-reference some data here. Does any one of you want to take a guess as to how many sitting, that means actively serving, U.S. presidents have been assassinated while in office? Just take a guess. It's 4. I'm not kidding. It's 4 U.S. presidents have been killed, assassinated, while in office. Which I actually did not even know that until recently. And I call myself a history guy. It's pretty crazy. I guess we'll just shout them out real quick. First, of course, is we all know this guy, Abraham Lincoln, assassinated by John Wilkes Booth in 1865, shortly after the General Lee's of the Confederate Army. Obviously, General Lee surrendered to Ulysses Grant at the Appomattox Courthouse shortly after the siege of Petersburg. I have a series on that. You should go listen to it. Shot by John Wilkes Booth while watching a play. We all know this bit. Though I don't think many people realize that he wasn't instantly killed. John Wilkes Booth didn't actually shoot him in the head, he shot him in the neck. And Abraham Lincoln was rushed to a friend's house nearby where he died a few days later. Second is James A. Garfield, who was shot and killed by a guy named Charles Gutte, I think is how you pronounce his name. It's French. I'm not very good at French. In 1881. Next to him is William McKinley, who's shot and killed by Leon. This is going to be a hard name to pronounce. Sologoltz. I don't know. Zolgoltz. I think it sounds kind of Polish or Russian, maybe. I don't know. Phil, see if you can pronounce that better than me. I'm sure you probably could. That was in 1901. And last is, we all know this guy too, JFK, assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald in 1963. Now, of course, there were also attempts on both candidates and presidents like Theodore Roosevelt, was shot during a speech by, what was the guy's name? John Skrenk, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Crazy story. That guy, man, Theodore Roosevelt, what a bull of a man. I mean, literally took the round to his chest, went through his speech, went through a pile of papers that he wrote his speech on, went into his chest, didn't puncture any lungs or anything. Like, he assessed his own wound. It's like, oh, I'm fine, I'm not coughing up blood. And then before the crowd, like, beat up the guy, John Skrenk, and I mean, they were going to hang him. He was like, wait, no, don't hurt him. He had him hand him over to the police so they could take him into custody. And then he finished his speech while he held a handkerchief over his bullet wound. I mean, I want a president like that, dude. That guy is crazy. That's such a cool story. Next to that was Ronald Reagan. And, oh, man, who tried to shoot him again? Can't remember. Let me see if I can find it. Who shot him? Who shot Reagan? I can't remember. Who tried to assassinate Reagan? It was a guy named... Oh, John, no. Oh, yeah, John Hinckley. A lot of guys named John trying to shoot presidents. John Hinckley is the guy who attempted to assassinate Reagan. And I don't actually know the year. Oh, 1981. March 30th, 1981. And obviously... probably know Reagan didn't die. I already mentioned it was attempted, so of course you realize that. Very funny story about that one too. After Reagan recovered from his wound, he was giving a speech somewhere, and there were balloons as part of decorations for the event. And while giving his speech, one of the balloons popped, and without missing a beat, Reagan just goes, "Ha, missed me." And it got a laugh, big laugh from the crowd. And honestly, I laugh too whenever I watch the recording of that. It's pretty good. Reagan was a comedian, dude. I don't know if many people realize that, but there are recordings of some of Reagan's speeches. You can just find them on like YouTube and Spotify. I've listened to them on Spotify where he literally does stand-up. Like, he goes up and he does a stand-up routine talking about the Soviet Union and stuff like that. And it's funny, man. Like, he actually has some pretty funny jokes. If he weren't president, Reagan could have definitely been one of those golden era 1980s stand-up comedians. Like, what's that one guy? Eddie Murphy. I mean, the guy was funny. Okay, but anyways, not gonna just list off a bunch of assassinations and leave it there. We're gonna look at a couple of them. We're gonna analyze them. And like I said, once again, just repeating myself here, sound like a broken record. We're gonna cross-reference them to today, to these past two assassination attempts. And the three primary things we're going to look at. We're going to look at motive, of course, like you do with any murder or attempted murder. We're going to look at method. And we're going to look at basically consequences, repercussions, pros and cons. Who stands to benefit? Who could possibly want this to happen? Because, I'm not going to start spitting my mouth over here like Alex Jones, like, oh, it was Dean Sting. It was dang, okay, that voice hurts my throat. But you get the idea. But also, like I said earlier, ever since Epstein's Island, I'll believe any of that stuff, just about. But I also don't know enough of that stuff to really start spouting it off. So I'm going to spout off to you what I do know. Starting back at Abraham Lincoln's assassination, John Wilkes Booth. Like I mentioned earlier, it was after General Lee's surrender. The South just freshly lost the war, and if you listen to my series on it, you'll know that there were still some small sects of the Southern Army, like the Tennessee Army, the Mississippi Division, that still kept on fighting for a little bit, like a few months basically, but they ended up getting beaten too. Texas didn't fully surrender until a year later, but they didn't do any fighting. Anyway, the South lost. The South had freshly lost. A few days had passed. Abraham Lincoln wanted to blow off some steam, go watch a show. He wanted to go see a movie. This guy, John Wilkes Booth, avid Southern supporter, kind of angry that the South lost, kind of angry that Lee surrendered, kind of angry that the war was over and the South didn't secure its independence to keep doing what they were doing. So what does he do? He takes matters into his own hands. He decides that the best method to help the South secure its agenda is revenge. He wants to kill the man he sees responsible for basically beating the South or causing the South to lose the war, which honestly he's right. If Lincoln weren't reelected, and you also know this if you listen to my series, the war would have ended in a ceasefire, basically. And the U.S. would have been split like North and South Korea, and would have literally become two countries. There would have been North America, or I guess North USA and South USA. Or I guess really it would have been the Confederate States, but you get the point. There would have been a ceasefire, it would have signaled the end of the war, and there would have been no reunification. There would have been two separate countries, just like South and North Korea. So yeah, Lincoln was, he was pretty much responsible for the South losing, for the South being re-instigated into the U.S. and not getting their own country. This made Booth mad. So Booth takes a gun. Booth sneaks into the theater. Lincoln's guards suck, apparently, because this guy got up right behind him and shot him. That's our method. We also have our motive. Revenge, method, gun. Now, repercussions. What happened right afterward? John Wilkes Booth jumps down. We all know he shouts the thing. South will rise again. That's what he shouts. That's the whole agenda. So we know who would benefit from Abraham Lincoln getting out. It'd be the South, Southern sympathizers, those who still wish to push the Southern cause. Of course, thankfully, that never happened. Lincoln's successors, that word is hard to pronounce, Vice President, did a very good job at continuing Lincoln's work, making sure, no war continued other than sort of the mopping up of the few little Southern pockets of resistance. And then the reinstigation of Southern states back in the U.S. without any sort of malice, doing things nicely, making sure you didn't punish the Southern states for fighting in a war. So in the end, there were people who could have benefited, but nobody really benefited at all, especially Lincoln, especially Booth. Did somebody put him up to it? Did, say, somebody in the Southern government put John Wilkes Booth up to shooting Lincoln? Maybe. I don't know. Honestly, it was such a long time ago. I am inclined to believe Booth operated on his own. own for the most part, though was maybe influenced by some close friends who had served with him in the Confederate Army. And they had all gotten together, gotten very angry, and somebody, more than likely Booth, got the idea, hey, let's shoot Lincoln. And that sort of festered and grew into this plan that, yeah, he killed Lincoln, but nothing really came of it. You know, it was only good execution up to a point. So we have that event. And that one's pretty clear cut. Assassination of Abraham Lincoln, pretty clean cut. You know, it's a revenge story. Nothing really came of it, as revenge often goes. It sort of just causes problems, never fixes anything. And yeah, I mean, that's that. Is that similar to either of these recent shootings? I don't know. I don't think the Butler, Pennsylvania one, mainly because we don't really know anything about that guy and his motives or anything, because he got killed. I mean, that Butler SWAT team was on their A game that day because the Secret Service couldn't figure out how to even hold a gun. But the new guy, what's his name again? Ralph? Oh, man, hold on. Gotta figure out this dude's name. This is important. This is important stuff here. It's, Ryan Wesley Ralph, I think. He strikes me as a bit of a John Wilkes Booth character. In a sort of very modern, weird, twisted way. Warren, I believe that guy could act a little bit more on his own. But, you know, I don't know. We'll come back to that later, though. Right now, I want to get on to who is next. Garfield? President Garfield, I believe. Hold on, trying to do this while driving is tough, I'll say that much. Bear with me here. President Garfield. Assassinated in 1881 by Charles Guiteau. I'm just going to assume that's how you pronounce his name. Now, we're going to analyze Garfield's assassination through his killer, just like we did with Lincoln. Guiteau was age 39 at the time. Funnily enough, was mentally disturbed. He had a little bit of a mental thing going on, and he was kind of angry at Garfield because I guess he asked Garfield for a job as basically a diplomat to Europe, and Garfield refused, probably for a really good reason, because this guy killed him for not giving him the job. So, you know, he was probably giving red flags when he asked for said job. So good call on Garfield. I'm sure he didn't see this guy's next move coming, though. Yeah, Guiteau. I'm going to keep just saying his name like that. Shot and killed Garfield for basically just not giving him a job. Which we've all been there, I'm sure. Maybe not actually shooting our boss for not giving us a job, but maybe wanting to. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to get off of that. Yeah, very weird motive. Well, actually, I don't know. Yeah, but no, yeah, weird motive. Very weird motive. I mean, I've had my letdowns with jobs before, but I don't know if I ever want to kill someone over it. This dude was so angry that Garfield didn't appoint him as this diplomat or whatever, that he stalked the president for weeks before murdering him. This guy really wanted him dead. This was a very premeditated assassination. This was like serial killer level of killing this president because he didn't give this guy the job he wanted. There's your motive and method. Repercussions, consequences. Garfield's dead. That's the consequences. Who stands to benefit? Just Guitu. Nobody else. Except for maybe Europe. Europe's glad this guy didn't get sent to them because he was crazy. It's one less crazy American getting sent to Europe. I'm sure they were happy about that, even if they didn't really even realize that happened. Yeah, we're going to kind of gloss over Garfield because, I don't know, literally just a crazy dude. Literally just a crazy dude. Were these two guys, Thomas Crooks and, man, I'm already forgetting, so many assassins and attempted assassins, I'm getting their names mixed up. Thomas Crooks and Ryan Wesley, were they just two crazy guys? These are the guys who attempted to assassinate Trump. Were they just two crazy guys, or were they put up to it? I don't know. We're going to keep looking into it. We're going to keep cross-analyzing some data, try to come up with an educated guess. Next on our list, who is it? JFK. Or actually, should we look at attempted assassination? Because after Garfield, we have Theodore. Yeah, let's do Theodore. Theodore Roosevelt giving a speech. This was in... Let me look at my notes here. No, it'd be McKinley, actually. All right, let's do President McKinley, and then we'll do Theodore Roosevelt. How's that sound? This is the guy whose last name I cannot pronounce, so Phil, help me out here. Maybe you know it. Solgots. I'm going to just assume that's how you pronounce it. This guy was what we call an anarchist. He had lost his job during a little bit of a economically troublesome time in the 1890s, and turned to anarchism, which is basically where you just really don't like the government or any sort of authority, and your method of dealing with it is taking it out on society around you. That's basically anarchism in a nutshell. Anarchists are the guys who make Molotov cocktails and hang out in underground bookstores because they think it's cool. Anyway, this dude decided his best way of dealing with the economic troubles at the time and helping himself and other people who, I guess, lost their jobs or fell on hard times was assassinating McKinley, President McKinley. His motive was literally anarchy. As an anarchist, he was going to commit anarchy. That's how it goes. Not a great motive, in my opinion, as far as motives go. Kind of lazy, if you ask me. Kind of vague in general. It doesn't seem very, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Productive? But I don't know. I guess that's the point of anarchism. It's counterproductive because you're angry at the system. I don't know. I guess it makes sense in an anarchist mind. Yeah. Shoots and kills President McKinley in when does he do this again? Let's see here. 1901. That's right. 1901. We have our motive, we have our method. Now let's look at the aftermath. Who stands to benefit? Who stands to benefit? Solgotz, for one. I guess he got his way. That's really the only way he benefits, because then he went to prison. Who else? Other anarchists get a kick out of it, I guess. I don't really know. Not really a whole lot of people other than Solgotz. Kind of a really dumb assassination. Didn't really do much, honestly. So yeah, we're gonna skip past that. We're gonna go to get on to Theodore Roosevelt, because this one I like, because this one's cool. Because this one is a little more topical. It's an attempted assassination of a presidential candidate. Just like now. Just like now. Now, let's see if we can pull up my notes here. This is kind of sketchy doing while driving. I should probably try to think this through next time I do something like that, but we're figuring this out on the fly. John Scrank attempted to assassinate Theodore Roosevelt in, pull it up for you here, 1912, October 14th to be specific. Like I said earlier, while good old Teddy was giving speech. Now this one is this one's crazy. This one I get a kick out of, because Scrank was out of his mind. Definitely kind of like Garfield's killer, a little mentally ill, but, well, actually, no, not a little, way more mentally ill than Garfield's killer. Like Garfield's killer, mentally ill, but way more so, like on steroids. Scrank supposedly was having hallucinations of a ghost of aforementioned President William McKinley, who was assassinated by that other guy who, yeah, I don't know. Dude was seeing ghosts, supposedly, of President McKinley, who, for whatever reason, told him he needed to kill Theodore Roosevelt. I don't know why. That's just what... Ask McKinley, I guess. I don't know. The guy was convinced McKinley was telling him to kill good old Teddy. So what does he do? He grabs his little pistol, goes to Theodore's speech, tries to shoot him, but Teddy was wearing the Kevlar vest of the time, a stack of several dozen papers with his speech written on them, right in front of his chest, and like I said earlier, didn't puncture all the way through his chest, didn't puncture lungs or anything, and the police apprehended Scrank under order of Teddy so that Scrank didn't get hung by the mob, and Teddy finished his speech with a handkerchief over his bullet wound. Super tough dude. Motive? Psychotic. Crazy man. Hallucinations of a dead, assassinated president telling him to kill a presidential candidate. Method? Another gun. They're all guns. They're all guns, by the way. Nobody got stabbed or bombed. I guess guns are just easier. Which, if we're going to be getting political here, all the Democrats trying to push for banning guns should really spread their wings over the rest of history instead of just making up. I shouldn't really say that. You know, instead of handing mentally challenged kids rifles and sending them to school, which, no, we won't go down that road. Actually, let's stay on topic here, Chris. Motive, crazy guy. Method, another gun. Aftermath. Who stood to benefit? The ghost of President McKinley, I guess. That's it, really. I am Theodore Roosevelt's competition, I guess. Other folks running for office. Could they have maybe put him up to it? Actually, now that's just an idea that just came to me. Could they have put him up to it? Could they have, like people have today, taken a mentally insane man, given him a gun, and said, "Go shoot that guy," or "Go shoot those people, so we can push our agenda"? Ooh, I don't know. Did the deep state tactic of using mentally challenged people to commit atrocities and murders to push your agenda actually start more than 100 years ago? Maybe. I think it started way before that, but whatever. How is that similar to present day? Well, this new guy, man, shoot, I'm like getting names so mixed up. There's so many assassins and attempted assassins. Ryan Wesley seems like a pretty competent, for the most part, sane dude as far as presidential candidate attempted assassins go in the sane department. But the other dude, Thomas Crooks, can't get much info out of him now because he's dead, but from what people have been able to gather, he was a little bit troubled in the head, which of course they all are. So I guess in that way, it is similar. Did somebody put John Skrank up to shooting Roosevelt, though? I don't know. I feel like somebody could have. I feel like he could have also just been a crazy guy having hallucinations. I don't really know. That was a long, long time ago. That was more than a century ago. And, you know, I've only got so much information to go off of. This is a very hastily thrown together episode, if you couldn't tell. I'm kind of improvising most of it, which I usually don't do in these. I usually have an outline right in front of me and all my research put together in notes, and I'm able to put something together real good. But now I'm kind of having to come up with stuff off the top of my head, and it's a bit of a challenge, dude. A bit of a challenge, especially to do on your own. I don't even have Alex here to bounce off of. We can't have a conversation. I'm just talking to myself right now, which I thought I was good at that, but I'm struggling here. Anyway, I guess, actually, yeah. Theodore's attempted assassination is very similar to both of Trump's attempted assassinations, I think. Especially the first one in Pennsylvania. Minus the guy getting shot in the head in Pennsylvania and Skrank just getting taken to jail. Very similar in a lot of ways, actually. Except I don't know if Thomas Crooks or Ryan Wesley were having hallucinations, but yeah, still, when you look at the all the situations as just in those three ways alone, it definitely has a few correlations. Yeah, moving on from Theodore, we're gonna go to who's next? JFK? Yeah, JFK. Alright, this is another one we all know. There's two we all know, Abraham Lincoln and JFK. Those are the big ones. JFK. Now this one, this is where things get good. Alright, I think we all know what I'm talking about. JFK, very liberal, very, very liberal president, especially back in the day. Very anti-war. At the time, Vietnam was in full swing. He was very adamant about getting our guys out of Vietnam and back home. Wanted that war done. Wanted Cambodia done and forgotten. He wanted to get out of Southeast Asia. He wanted to also push a lot of other sort of liberal social agendas and work agendas. He wasn't really a modern day liberal. He was more of like what, like if you looked at him now in today's standards, he was conservative, but back then it was like, I mean, it's considered liberal and unpatriotic to not want to go to war for seemingly no reason, which is crazy. Imagine that, right? So this guy, Lee Oswald, a U.S. Marine, believe it or not, and we all know the story, assassinates JFK via a sniper rifle, firing to JFK's head during the parade in Texas, and very tragic, kind of sad. Happened right in front of his wife, his poor wife. That had to be absolutely awful, watching your husband's head pop like a grape. And I'm sure many of you, if not everyone, has seen the pictures. All the folks laying down in the grass, people running away, JFK's security jumping up on his car, cradling his head, realizing he was dead. Let's look at the assailant here, or the, not really even suspect, murder, assassin, the assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald. Motives, what were his motives? But we'll never know, because he got killed by a guy named Ruby before anybody could figure out what his motive was, before anybody could question him. And that's where, we get all those crazy conspiracies. Like, I don't even know if they're that crazy, honestly. Like, did the CIA put him up to it? Which, here's where we're gonna get into things. I'm gonna try not to spend too long on this. I kind of think they did. Honestly, I'm sort of leaning towards the camp where, maybe they did. Because this is where we're going to start getting into some deep state stuff, and I'm going to try not to get too deep into the deep state stuff, but we need to define a few terms real quick. We need to familiarize ourselves with a couple terms before we continue with our historical analysis of presidential assassinations and presidential candidate assassination attempts, compared to president. Very long title. I have to work on the title before I release this episode, because that's too long. Guy was killed before we could figure out his motive. Sparks conspiracy the CIA put him up to it. Why would the CIA put him up to it? Well, here's a few terms that you need to know before we continue. One is the MIC. What does that stand for? Military Industrial Complex. Who is that? That is everybody, every corporation or government agency or individual that stands to benefit financially from us, the U.S., being in a state of war. And wouldn't you know, the CIA is a part of that little conglomerate known as the MIC. Good old MIC, good old MIC. We'll call it MIC. This also groups like Lockheed Martin, Texas Instruments, who make calculators and missiles. The guys who make the Abrams tanks, whoever that is, I can't remember. Basically anybody who makes or sells grenades and bullets and tanks and missiles. And the CIA. Can't forget them. One thing you must know about this time period is the CIA was very, very heavily involved in Vietnam. Vietnam was like a CIA sandbox experiment war. Like, every day they were releasing some sort of new weapon or technology just to try out in Vietnam. And it was almost like just keeping this war going and going and going so they could try new stuff and make new stuff. And so much, oh my goodness, so much bad stuff came from that. Like, I'm not just talking weapons wise and like chemicals wise, like Agent Orange. Like, I'm talking like the sort of social and just moral bad things that happened and habits that our soldiers, our own Marines and soldiers started to get into. A lot of war crimes committed during that war. By us. Both sides, but a lot by us. Not great. Vietnam is a stain, a bit of a stain on American history. Which it wasn't all bad. I'm not saying that every battle in Vietnam was fought over nothing or the whole war was pointless. Like, there was a good and bad side. And we were there to try to help our allies, and there were lots of good U.S. soldiers and Marines and sailors and pilots who served over there and fought over there and died over there. But there was also a very dark undertone to the whole thing. And there was this very sort of confused outlook on the war. Like, very few soldiers over there knew why they were even fighting. Which, if you don't know why you're doing a job you're doing, it's kind of makes you just not want to do it or not try hard or just cut corners, and that sort of only gets put tenfold, I guess, in war. But yeah, CIA very heavily involved in Vietnam, making all sorts of weapons, testing out all sorts of technology, doing all sorts of experiments, delving very deep into psyops and psychological warfare and learning how to conduct psychological warfare. So this was the CIA's time to rise and shine and learn how to do all sorts of crazy stuff and gain control and, start doing stuff like MK Ultra and making crazy chemicals like Agent Orange and developing new weapons and sciences and scientific methods to warfare and, all that sort of cool, fun stuff. So I guess what I'm trying to say is they would stand to benefit from JFK getting killed. And they did benefit from JFK getting killed. The war did not end. Bad things kept happening. Which I'm not saying it's just the CIA. I'm sure if Lee Oswald was put up to it, which let's just, for my sake, say yeah. Just for the sake of this episode, let's say yeah. He was. He did not act on his own accord. This was a Marine. I'm sure he was probably specially recruited for this mission, so to speak. But if before I go any further, if it came out that, yeah, he totally acted on his own and he was crazy, and that was the undeniable truth, so much evidence that pointing to that fact, I honestly also wouldn't be surprised. But as of right now, I'm leaning towards the somebody, deep state Y, CIA, MIC, MICKEY, MOUSE. I don't know where that came from. That was random. Anyway, Mick. Yeah, improvised episodes are weird. Anyways, well, there you have it. JFK's assassination. Except this time, we only have 2 of our 3 points we're going for. We have a method, like we said, sniper rifle, shooting the guy in a parade, and we have our sort of aftermath, who would benefit, CIA, military-industrial complex. They were, during this time too, should also mention, they were really, the military-industrial complex was really on its come-up. Like, right around now, it was really on its come-up. We're a couple decades after World War II. We just got through the Korean War. Vietnam War is in full swing. These guys are really on the come-up. They're really learning how to make a lot of money and gain a lot of power by making and selling weapons. So these are the folks who would benefit JFK being killed. Motive, though, for the guy who actually committed the act. We don't have anything. We don't have any diaries. We don't have any recordings from the dude. Of course, we don't have any questioning of the guy because he was killed by, I think, an FBI agent, by the way, or a CIA. I don't know. Okay, hold on. The Ruby guy. Okay, I cannot look into this anymore right now because I am driving at night on an interstate. But maybe I'll put a little note to myself to go back and, I don't know, maybe just add a quick little recording in post of who this Ruby guy was, because I actually can't remember, but I think he was an agent. He at least worked for law enforcement, I'm pretty sure. Which, yeah, I don't know. That could just be a guy doing his job, or it could be a guy trying to cover something up. I don't know. That's what we're here to try to think about. We're not going to figure out anything here, but we're going to think about a lot of stuff. We're going to think about a lot. We're going to talk about a lot. We already have, and we're getting to the end here. Because we're at the final guy on our list, Reagan. Attempted assassination attempt by, who did we say it was again? Oh man. Oh yeah, this one is funny actually. This one is absolutely crazy. Let me get it pulled up here. Okay. Hinckley would be Reagan's would-be assassin. This dude's motive is by far the funniest out of all of them. Well, actually, I don't know. Skranks is pretty funny. Because, the ghost of President... Wait, actually, did these two guys have the same last name? The attempted assassin and the previous president? I think they do. Oh, no, McKinley. Okay, President McKinley and would-be assassin Hinckley. Okay, man, I got a little bit mixed up. But, so... I don't know about, nothing really saying actually mentally insane, but once I tell you this guy's motive, you could probably deduce on your own whether he was or not. So, no political motive for this guy. No religious motive either. He just had a crush on this actress named Jodie Foster, and I guess he was trying to impress her so she'd go out on a date with him or something. And the dude's best idea to impress this girl was to try to kill the president. Because, I don't know, Oswald did it like 20 years ago or 20 years before that, and they got a big kick, and I don't know, he wanted to try it himself. Obviously, it didn't work. Reagan survived, and yeah, I don't know. Absolutely ridiculous motive. I mean, I've heard things. I've heard of guys who do some crazy things to try to impress girls. I've done dumb stuff to try to impress my wife. Back when we were dating, which I think about now and cringe because some of it's embarrassing, and none of you will ever know those things. I still do some things that I kind of cringe at when I think back on them. Try to impress her. Yeah, guys will do dumb things to try to impress girls, and this is by far one of the dumbest. Did not work out for that guy. He didn't even succeed. He didn't even kill Reagan. He failed at that. Like, that's even more embarrassing. That not only did he do something so dumb, but he didn't even do it right. Like, he couldn't even actually get it done. Yeah. So then, yeah, Reagan recouped from that. Did his whole funny joke when the balloon popped. Method, gun, again. I don't know why I'm even doing method at this point. They're all gun. It's gun every time. Nobody got stabbed or bombed. I guess different locations. Most of them are during speeches, though. Which I guess that's the only time you can get the guy standing still. Man, Oswald was he was dedicated. I mean, that guy really tried. Out of all of them, he's the only one who didn't do it during a speech while the guy was standing still. Or I guess Abraham Lincoln was sitting still. I mean, he hit a moving target. That's skill right there. Like, that's a guy who was there to get the job done, and he got it done. But this other dude, Hinckley, couldn't quite figure it out. I guess couldn't quite figure it out. Aftermath. Who stands to benefit? Well, I guess a few people could here. Reagan's opposition, his competition, I guess. The Soviets, maybe? I don't really know. Reagan at the time was really pushing for the Soviet Union to kind of stop with their antics that they were up to at the time, which was a whole lot of oppression. Oppressing their people, oppressing other people around them. And he took a very diplomatic approach to it. But he was also making a lot of leeway. He and the people around him, they were kind of doing a good job at it. So I guess I could see Soviet Union, Soviet leaders benefiting from him getting put 6 feet under. Who else? Jodie Foster, I guess. She'd get a nice guy. She'd get real impressed. Get real flustered to get to go on a date with a real nice, handsome guy, I guess. Dude, I don't know. Hinckley, I guess, thought he would benefit from this. But yeah, this one also kind of resembles modern day in a way to where, like, you think, because this guy's motive is so dumb. It's so dumb. It's even dumber than Scrank's. But at least Skrank was absolutely crazy and seeing hallucinations. This dude was just trying to impress a girl. Like, I don't know. It's like such a flaky motive. Like, I feel like it doesn't hold up that well to the point where I could see somebody trying to put him up to it. Because, I don't know, Reagan was trying to do a lot of things that would harm a lot of people's agendas, including the Mick. Remember that guy, Mick? Good old Mick. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know, man. He also, actually, another thing, he was also very anti-drug. This was during the war on drugs period. He was trying to do, there was a huge push for going away or doing away with cocaine trade. This was also during the time of Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel, which maybe we should do an episode on that. That would be a fun episode to do. Lots of cocaine and crack and marijuana, which, you know how they felt about all that, flowing through the U.S. and across U.S. borders from Mexico and South America, which was, causing a lot of problems. So the war on drugs started. Reagan started pushing for just, I don't know, kind of battering down on the drug trade, trying to do as much damage to cartels as it could and to their product as it could, and trying to convince South American and Central American governments to put the hammer down on cartels more. So I guess I could see cartels benefiting from Reagan being dead. And I mean, they would have enough power and money to maybe hire or put an assassin up to it. I mean, they're criminals. They would know how to go through all the back doors and cover their tracks and launder the money and stuff to get it done so that it could be traced back to them. Maybe the Medellin cartel put good old Hinckley up to it, and it's like, your cover story is going to be you have a crush on this actress and you want her to go on a date with you, so you're going to try to kill this guy. I don't know. All we can do is speculate. All we can do is look at the data and try to make an educated guess off of the information we have, which is what we're going to do now with our very last guy, which I know I said Reagan was our last guy, but it's the last guy on the list of previous or historical assassins and assassination attempts. Now we're to present day, 2024. 2024. Man, that sounded weird coming out of my mouth. I thought I said that wrong for a second. Two, basically back to back, like 8 weeks apart, assassination attempts on another presidential candidate. Donald Trump, we all know it. Thomas Crooks in Butler, Pennsylvania, and this new guy, Ryan Wesley, in I know it just happened, but I honestly think it's funny that it happened on Trump's golf course in Florida. It's weird. So let's start with Butler, Pennsylvania. Thomas Crooks. Motive. We don't know, because the guy got killed because Butler's SWAT team was on their A game. Was it a cover-up? Were they killing him to cover it up? Possibly. I don't know. I do know this, is that the guy was in a BlackRock video that got taken down the second that happened on live news, which, if you don't really know anything about BlackRock, look them up and have fun going down that rabbit hole. Basically, a massive corporation that just has ties and investments in their hands in just about every other single massive corporation on Earth. And also own a ton of real estate in the U.S. Like, they're basically their own country at this point. Yeah, motive. No idea. Basically, we don't know this one. Method, another gun, rifle on a very steep, almost impossible to stand on sloped roof. Sarcasm. And yeah, who would stand to benefit? Well, we already know all that. I mean, you guys can make your own guess. I mean, we know who would. Political opposition. Good old Mick, because Trump doesn't want to be at war in Ukraine. He doesn't want us to be at war with China over Taiwan. And you know who would? The people who sell the grenades and missiles. That's who would, because they make a lot of money from that stuff. They could have put this guy up to it, but we don't know, because the guy can't confess to anything because he's dead. And no, they're not going to confess to anything. Second assassination attempt, very recent. It was what, yesterday? Trump playing golf at his golf course in Florida, international golf course. Hole 5, I guess. He was about to drive. I think first hit for the hole. And this dude suddenly started exchanging fire with Secret Service, who finally figured out what to do with. I guess they finally learned how to shoot. And the guy ran off. Ended up getting arrested a few miles north. A thing I find weird about this one is this one feels so staged. And maybe that's just my own paranoia, but the last one felt very staged, like the guy was set up to it and like there were other people behind it. This one even more so. I mean, dang. Like, it's a borderline, like, old crappy FBI TV show episode plot. Like, the dude is using a scoped AK-47, supposedly. I've seen pictures of it. I guess it kind of looks like an AK. Had 2 bags and a GoPro. Oh my goodness, this is the kicker. The dude mounted a GoPro. Phil, you're gonna love this. I don't know if it was the 13 Hero or the 13 Pro or whatever it is. Might have been a 10. I know you like the GoPro 10. Mounted a GoPro to this chain link fence to record his, I guess, the stunt of his lifetime. Couple bags of ammo and stuff, I guess, and his rifle. All just conveniently left there at the fence, which I would understand the GoPro being left. I would understand the bags being left, because it looks like they were hooked and left hanging on the fence. But the rifle, the dude left his rifle just leaning against the fence. The pictures of the scene look like such a staged scene, and maybe that's just me seeing things, but I don't know, you gotta look at a picture of it for yourself, because it looks just like so, like, yeah, I just purposely trying to leave behind evidence. And who knows what else they're going to find on the GoPro. I guarantee you there's going to be some videos released from an SD card on that thing of this guy, like, spouting some nonsense that's going to help someone's agenda. I almost guarantee, I'm calling it now. Tomorrow or, like, later this week, we're going to get some released footage from an SD card on that GoPro. If there is one. I don't know. Another thing about this guy, when he was arrested, the dude seemed calm. Like, he was not frantic, he wasn't crying, he wasn't fighting, he wasn't, I don't know, spouting a bunch of nonsense. He was just smiling and chill. Like he knew everything was going to be alright. Another thing about the dude, a little bit about his past, 2016, he was a huge Trump supporter, average Trump supporter. Voted for him and everything, very vocally supportive of him. But I guess as of recent years, or very recently, took that back and has begun to view Trump as, a warmonger and trying to put us into a bad situation with Ukraine and China and Taiwan. Which, funnily enough, he was also one of the very first people to go to Kyiv, capital of Ukraine, when Russia invaded Ukraine to protest Russia's invasions. Also, if you look at pictures of this guy, he seems to be like a very, super right-wing, patriotic guy. Like, lots of pictures of him wearing, tactical vests, wearing American flag t-shirts, American flag scarves, and he's posing with Ukrainian soldiers in some photos, and he's also kind of wealthy, I guess. Not rich, but he owns a construction company in Hawaii. I wonder how those guys are doing when they got the news that their boss tried to kill an ex-president of the United States, one of the leading candidates. That has to be a weird feeling. Probably think you're gonna lose your job or something. I don't know. It's a weird thing to wake up to and find out your boss did that. And now then you gotta go pour concrete in Honolulu or something. Heart goes out to those guys. Keep working hard, fellas. Don't worry. We know you weren't behind it. Kind of wealthy, well-traveled, very politically active, or vocal at least. Could he have operated on his own? I guess. In the way that, say, John Wilkes Booth did. I guess he saw the only way to take out this threat to humanity that he perceived Trump to be was to kill him. But just so much of it seems fake. It seems and now these people are barely even trying to lie about it. They're so bad at lying now. If people really, we're just gonna call it the deep state, okay? We're gonna use that word, put them up to it. They're barely even trying to lie anymore. At least with JFK and the Kennedys, they were good at covering stuff up and keeping their mouths shut and making it seem crazy. Which, even today, people, we still don't know. Did the CIA kill Kennedy? Did they recruit Oswald to do it? Or was it really just Oswald acting on his own? Now it's just you look at this Ryan guy, you're yeah, he definitely got set up. He was told to do this. Somebody's paying him a ton of money or helping him with some sort of bad situation he was in to do this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And they're dude. I don't know. There's also a part of me that wants to be optimistic. No, he was just a crazy guy who tries to do it. That is the better option. A guy, the time we live in, the better option is the guy who tried to kill the former president was just crazy, and not that he was hired by the CIA to do it. That is the better option. Not that, nobody tried to kill the former president. It's that the guy who tried to kill the former president was just acting on his own. He was crazy. That's a weird feeling. So, yeah, that is this episode of World Canon. I don't know, we'll figure out a title. Thank you so much for joining me and just hanging out with me while I drive home late at night from Seattle. It was good chatting, good talking to you, good talking about all these crazy things that have happened to former presidents of our country throughout history. Please go check out Phil's Lawn Care on YouTube and the Think Green podcast from Phil's Lawn Care with Phil. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate you. Great stuff over there, guys. Go check him out. I'm going to shut off here and finish getting home. I'm finally in Spokane now, so I'm just about there. I'm going to listen to some more old country music and drink some Mountain Dew to keep myself awake. Which, speaking of Mountain Dew, I know a guy who likes Mountain Dew. Ezra, shout out to you. There's another buddy of mine, actually. He's got a YouTube channel called The Building Investor. Go check him out as well. Does great, all sorts of cool building and handyman content. Very informative. You can learn a lot. He's got a little series right now where he's building a tiny house. It's actually a very large tiny house. I've seen it in person. It's very impressive. And it's just the skeleton of it too. He just has the frame so far, and it's very impressive. Great vids of him doing all that. I honestly don't even know how that stuff works. Like, I'm a blue collar guy too. I weld, but the stuff he does with like lumber and just building is like magic to me. He's a very, very smart guy, and he's just building a whole house for his family, and he's posting every step of it on his YouTube channel, The Building Investor. And it's pretty cool. Like, it's pretty cool. He just released one video recently where he's clearing land for it, and he gets a big excavator. That's a lot of fun to watch. That one got a lot of views very quick. Yeah, go check him out. Anyways, that's this episode of World Canon. Thank you so much for joining me. I know this was a little hastily thrown together. Very different. Very, very different from what we've done. But I kind of had fun. Kind of had fun improvising and just kind of chatting to you guys, talking your heads off. But next week or next time, it'll be back with me and Alex in the studio with an actual put together outline and thought out notes and stuff. You know, back to our regularly scheduled program. Yeah. Without further ado, thanks for listening. Hope you have a good one. Catch you later.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for
Generate
mankind.
any what we're going to try to do.
What your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I have a dream.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Who's bringing the chips?
Guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
There is no constitutional issue here. The command of the Constitution is plain.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.